Contrary to my natural inclination, I have to ask for money to keep this thing going because we should be still on the air. Joanna Baron is the director of the Canadian Constitution Foundation. Not constitutional. And we're talking about our new Prime Minister, Carney. He has come on the scene so quickly, most people don't know anything about him or his past. Yeah, he was a governor, banker. But he has some comments on Canadian, like for instance, the truckers.
Yeah, so he actually wrote an op-ed in the Globe and Mail while the Freedom Convoy protest was going on, referring to the protesters, the overwhelming majority of whom were peacefully protesting, expressing their right to protest on Parliament Hill as seditious. And we don't know if he was involved in these discussions, but we know that the government later invoked the Emergencies Act and froze bank accounts of people who were peacefully protesting. That was found to be unconstitutional by a judge of the federal court. And we know Mark Carney would have been on board with that invocation.
And did your foundation take that case?
Yes, we brought that to the federal court and we are awaiting the result of the government's appeal to the Federal Court of Appeal. So,
and he also, talks about net zero. I mean, he's quite high-handed about the economy and the carbon tax.
Yeah, well, we saw in the First Minister's meeting actually just yesterday that when he was talking about energy projects to fast track, which sounds great, but when you get into the fine print, he made it clear the federal government will only fast track projects that meets its environmental consultations, Indigenous consultations, which may be a problem for provincial jurisdiction, by the way.
Yes. But that's what parliamentarians are supposed to know, the difference between provincial and federal.
Right.
Now, our past Prime Minister, Trudeau, knew nothing about that.
No.
He knew nothing about banking, didn't know anything about the law or government, some would say. But this one, we are in a different situation because he was never taught.
No.
So do you feel that there's going to be some challenges coming up where your federation gets in there and says, hey, buddy?
Well, absolutely. So the CCF was also involved in the impact on the No More Pipelines bill challenge, where the Supreme Court actually said the federal government had gone too far. Yeah. So it looks like Mark Carney is heading down that track, in which case we'll absolutely challenge it on division of powers grounds. And we'll see how he is on other civil liberties.
Well, that's important. But the other thing is when you're dealing with government and he's trying to fast track things, Trudeau had a committee. It spent $98 million to fast track things, didn't fast track one thing.
No, because
Are you optimistic?
Optimistic about Carney? I wouldn't say so, no.
But we have to give him the benefit of the doubt, though.
I mean, I think he's more competent. I think he's going to be more effective. I think he's more cognitively, effective than Justin Trudeau, but he has some very liberal instincts.
And what do you mean by that?
Well, I've read his book Values, unfortunately, and he doesn't really believe in a free market. He believes in a free market as approved by Mark Carney.
He does have a bit of a control problem, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, well then we're going to have you back when we have some more controversies. Thank you very, very much for today. 3 minutes. To those of you who have subscribed and donated, a heartfelt thank you. You're keeping us on the air. If you're watching and you haven't, please try to do so, because 4 years ago we started this show because there needed to be independent analysis. Now more than ever, with the Online Harms Act, once that gets into law, it's been passed once by the House, there are going to be hundreds of bureaucrats censoring the news in Canada, censoring this show. We need to keep it on the air. Thanks for your support.